on what I think is the ultimate, most tragic example of this. We're going to talk about Jani Lane.
The lead singer of Warrant.
The cherry pie guy.
The cherry pie guy.
But what I think is going to blow people's minds, and certainly blew mine reading these notes, is that the guy known for writing maybe the dumbest song of the 80s. He was actually a high school football star, a musical theater prodigy, and a genius student who scored in the top 2% of the country on his college entrance exams.
That is the aha moment I'm still processing. We aren't talking about a dummy who got lucky.
Not at all. We're talking about a brilliant guy who got trapped in a caricature that, it eventually destroyed him.
And that trap is exactly what we need to unpack. Because it wasn't an accident.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so let's start with the theory, this concept of the punching bag. The Reddit discussion you pulled had this really interesting premise. Artists become the face of systemic problems that are way bigger than they are.
Right. It's about simplification. The world is complex. Systemic issues like racism or misogyny are, hard to visualize.
So we pick a human avatar to scream at.
Exactly. The classic historical example the sources debate is Elvis Presley.
Right. The narrative being that Elvis stole black music. You hear that everywhere now.
That's the modern shorthand, yes. He is the punching bag for the racism of the 1950s music industry. And look, let's be clear. The industry was racist.
Oh, absolutely.
It segregated charts. It prevented black artists from getting airtime. It stole royalties. But does Elvis, the individual, deserve all the hate for the entire system?
The sources argue there's more nuance there. It's not like Elvis was in the back room drawing up segregation laws.
No. In fact, he was a massive fan of the artists he covered. He constantly praised Fats Domino. He's friends with B.B. King. The source argues he's the villain today because he succeeded within a broken system, not because he built it.
It's just easier to hate one guy in a rhinestone suit
than to unpack the entire socioeconomic history of the American South.
Yeah. It's the same dynamic with Britney Spears jumping forward a few decades.
Oh, that's a darker one. For a solid 10 years, Britney was the punching bag for crazy celebrities.
I remember that era so vividly. We didn't see a human in crisis. We saw content. We saw a train wreck we were entitled to watch.
Exactly. And now, thanks to things like the Framing Britney Spears documentary, we realize she wasn't crazy. She was reacting to a misogynistic industry and a predatory legal arrangement.
A system designed to break her.
But at the time, she was the symbol of excess.
Mm-hmm.
We mocked her, so we didn't have to look at how we were consuming young women's lives as entertainment.
There's one more example before we get to Jani that I found really interesting. Nickelback.
Ah, Nickelback.
This one feels lower stakes, but the hatred is just as intense. Why does everyone hate Nickelback?
The Nickelback thing is fascinating because it's not really about them being bad. They're competent musicians. The sources argue people hate Nickelback because they represent the monoculture.
Okay, define that for me, the monoculture.
It's that era pre-high-speed internet where radio and MTV force-fed everyone the same 10 songs.
You could escape them.
You couldn't escape them. Nickelback is the symbol of music designed for everyone that satisfies no one. Now that we have Spotify and algorithms, we look back and we hate them because they remind us of a time when we had no choice.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so we have these figures. Elvis, Britney, Nickelback, they all took the hits. But generally speaking, they survived.
Right.
Britney is free. Nickelback sells out arenas. Elvis is a legend.
But Jani Lane didn't survive. And that's where the punching bag theory turns lethal. Because Jani Lane didn't just get mocked, he got erased.
And to understand that erasure, we have to establish who he actually was, because the biographies paint a picture that is so different from the MTV image.
Let's look at the origin story. He was born in Akron, Ohio. His birth name was John Kennedy Oswald.
Okay, hold on. Kennedy and Oswald in the same name.
I know.
That feels like a bad omen right out of the gate.
It's heavy, right? His parents were huge JFK fans. But having the names of both the victim and the assassin,
Yeah,
they eventually changed his middle name to Patrick.
wow.
But even as a kid, he wasn't your typical garage rocker. He was a prodigy. He was drumming in clubs at age 11.
At 11?
11, under the name Mitch Dynamite.
Mitch Dynamite is possibly the greatest stage name for an 11-year-old I have ever heard.
It's amazing. But he wasn't just a rocker, right? The notes say he was a theater kid.
This is the detail that's so surprising. In high school, he wasn't just partying. He was starring in Oklahoma and Arsenic and Old Lace.
He was a song and dance man. He understood structure, melody, performance, and academically, he was brilliant.
This is the statistic that jumped out at me. Top 2%.
Top 2% nationally on his college entrance exams. That's Ivy League territory. He was offered a scholarship for theater. He had options.
He could have gone to Broadway.
He could have, but he chose rock and roll. He moves to L.A., and he does the grind for real.
The peanut butter story really grounds this for me.
It's a great detail. He's living with his drummer, Stephen Sweet. They are so broke they are splitting a single jar of peanut butter for dinner.
Wow.
He's working in a warehouse packing boxes. He isn't some industry plant. He's a starving artist trying to make it on his own merit.
And when Warrant finally breaks with Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich, it's not because a producer handed them songs.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. In a lot of those bands, the singer was just the face. But Jani Lane wrote everything. Heaven, Down Boys. Those were his songs.
He viewed himself as a craftsman.
He did. He idolized the Beatles. He wanted to write the perfect pop rock song.
So he's validated. Debut album goes double platinum. He's on top of the world. And then comes 1990.
1990 is the pivot point. The band has a new album ready to go. It's titled Uncle Tom's Cabin. It's supposed to be a darker, more mature record.
They're ready to evolve. And then the phone rings.
It's the president of Columbia Records, Donnie Yenner. And he just drops the hammer. He says, I don't hear a single.
Which, for a songwriter who just went double platinum, has to be the ultimate insult.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
Yenner tells him, I need a rock anthem. I need something dumb and catchy like Aerosmith's Love in an Elevator. He basically orders Jani to write a hit.
He wants product, not art.
And Jani's reaction is fascinating. He doesn't labor over it.
No.
No, he does it out of spite. The story goes that he wrote Cherry Pie in 15 minutes. He scribbled the lyrics on a pizza box.
On a pizza box.
On a pizza box that was lying around the studio. He viewed it as a joke, a throwaway track. It was him saying to the label, oh, you want a dumb song about sex? Here.
He thought they would hear it and laugh.
But the label didn't laugh.
No.
No. They heard a cash register ringing. They loved it so much they scrapped the original album title. They renamed the entire album Cherry Pie. And then they commissioned the video.
We have to talk about the video because even if you've never heard the song, you've seen the imagery.
It is the definitive artifact of that era. The white background, the fire hose, and Bobby Brown, the model. It is loud, it is objectifying, it is pure excess.
And it worked. It was massive. So why do we call this a curse?
Because Jani Lane knew immediately that he had just sold his soul. There is this haunting quote from him later in life where he says, I could shoot myself in the head for writing that song.
That is incredibly heavy.
He felt his entire identity as a serious songwriter. The guy who got the scholarship, the guy who wrote Heaven, was just erased.
Gone.
In 15 minutes, he became the Cherry Pie guy, a novelty act.
And the timing is what makes this a tragedy. Because if this happens in 1985, maybe he rides the wave for 5 years. But this is 1990.
The clock is ticking. Which brings us to the East of Borneo article and this term, semiotic rupture.
Okay, I love a good academic term. What is a semiotic rupture in the context of guys with the big hair?
It's when the symbols we use to understand the world suddenly break or flip meaning. Think about what hair metal was visually. The article argues it was a form of drag.
Drag? Like RuPaul?
In a sociological sense, yes. Think about it. Men in heavy makeup, tease hair, spandex, jewelry. It was flamboyant, feminine. But the performance was aggressively asserting how straight they were.
It was about fantasy and excess.
And then, almost overnight, Seattle happens.
Enter grunge, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and the visual language of grunge is...
flannel, denim, unwashed hair, looking like you don't care.
Right, authenticity.
It was a rejection of the spectacle. And because Warrant had just released the ultimate symbol of excess with Cherry Pie, they became the enemy. They weren't just not cool anymore. They were a symbol of everything that was wrong with music.
There's a metaphor in the Reddit thread that I loved. The dog and the mailman.
Yes. The dog thinking it caused the mailman to leave. Warrant thought they did something wrong. They thought, maybe we need to write better songs. But the reality was, the culture, the mailman had just walked away.
It didn't matter what they did.
Nothing mattered.
Yeah.
And there is a specific scene in the sources that just captures this. The poster moment.
Oh, this part.
It breaks my heart. It's 1992. Jani Lane walks into the lobby of Columbia Records, the label that forced him to write Cherry Pie. And he looks at the wall where the giant framed Cherry Pie poster used to hang.
And it's gone.
It's gone. And in its place is a poster for Alice in Chains' album, Dirt.
Talk about a visual metaphor for being replaced.
Jani allegedly turned to the person with him and said, I realized right then I'm done. He didn't just mean the band was dropped. He meant My era is over.
And he was the face of that old era, so he was the first casualty. And this is where the punching bag dynamic really destroys him.
It does. It wasn't just that people stopped buying the records. He became a national joke. He became the symbol of everything the 90s hated about the 80s.
He was mocked for the very thing the industry forced him to create.
Imagine being that smart, that sensitive, and having the whole world laugh at you for a decade.
And he didn't have the thick skin for it. He wasn't Gene Simmons, who just cares about the money.
No, he was a sensitive theater kid at heart. The Rock Candy Source goes into detail about his downward spiral. It wasn't a career slump, it was a loss of self.
We're talking about severe alcoholism here.
Severe. There's a quote from Johnny. Drink till you puke, pass out, get up and do it again. He was self-medicating the shame. He had multiple DUIs.
He's trying to numb it all.
And the sources mentioned his mother's death in 2004 as a breaking point.
Yeah. She was his anchor. When she died, the tether snapped. He just drifted further into the addiction. He tried rehab, but he couldn't escape the cherry pie shadow.
Which brings us to the end, August 11th, 2011.
Room 118, the Comfort Inn in Woodland Hills, California.
Yeah, and we should note, this isn't a glamorous rock star hotel. This is a standard roadside motel next to a freeway.
He was found dead, alone.
Acute ethanol intoxication. He drank himself to death. He was 47 years old.
But there is one detail from the police report that I actually had to stop reading for a second. The note.
It's the detail that stays with you. When the police searched his pockets, they found a small, crumpled piece of paper. He wasn't carrying a wallet. No ID.
Just the note.
The note just said, "I am Jani Lane," and it had a phone number for a contact person.
I am Jani Lane.
Think about the level of despair in that sentence. He knew. He knew he was in such a bad state that he might be found unconscious or dead, and he was unrecognizable. The man who was on the cover of Rolling Stone. The face of MTV. He had to carry a note in his pocket to remind the world who he was.
It's the ultimate erasure.
It is. The culture chewed him up, turned him into a cartoon, and when he couldn't live up to the joke anymore, he just faded away in a comfort inn.
It really forces you to reevaluate the whole punching bag artist thing, because we usually laugh along, we share the joke, but Jani Lane is proof there's a body count attached to that laughter.
Exactly. We consume artists as products. When the flavor changes, when we go from glam to grunge, we don't just stop listening. We actively turn the previous icons into villains to make ourselves feel superior.
Look how dumb he is for making that.
But we forget there's a human being on the other side, a guy who just wanted to write songs like Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And who was pushed by a corporation to become something he hated and then punished for it by the public.
So as we wrap this up, it's easy to look back at the 90s and say, wow, they were cruel to Jani Lane. But we're doing it now, aren't we?
That's the uncomfortable question I want to leave the listener with. Look at the charts right now. Look at the TikTok stars, the pop singers, everyone is starting to cringe at. Who is the Jani Lane of 2024?
That's a scary thought.
Who are cheering for today that we will mercilessly mock in 5 years? And more importantly, what will that mockery do to them? Because history tells us they hear the jokes. And sometimes the jokes are what kill them.
It definitely makes you think twice before pasting that snarky comment. Thank you for walking us through this one. It was heavy, but necessary.
Thanks for having me.